Scarlet, for the 100th time, we go again.
Fuck yeah, mate. Well done to us. Party poppers. Shifty's now putting in graphics, presumably, to
although
show bottles
not
of
AI
champagne.
Shifty, they keep upsetting people use the fucking... Yeah, it's like the whole world's moving on with AI, and it's just an acceptance that's going to be there for some things. Shifty sticks in a wee jug of joy picture for a bit of a laugh and gets absolutely crucified on YouTube.
Incredible. But yeah, congratulations to us. Episode 100. Who'd have fucking thought it? I mean, I don't know if I thought we'd make episode 100 the last time I saw you, mate, because we were in what can only be described as a dank squat of an Airbnb in Manchester.
And we were worse. We were worse than the squat.
Mate, we haven't ever talked about this. I woke up that morning. The first thing I saw was my pillow, which was disgusting. So we were basically sleeping in dirty beds. Fucking horrible Airbnb. And then I was aware, I don't know what time we went to bed. Let's say 5 or 6 a.m. And then I was aware that everyone was up and everyone was downstairs, and I hadn't even fucking left my bedroom yet. So I thought, I've got to have a fucking shower. And I turned the shower on, and it was literally like just a dribble of water. And I have just never been so hungover in my entire life. And I didn't know if I could even make it down the stairs. And then I started to panic that you were all going to leave the Airbnb without me. And I didn't know how to fucking... I was just like, you know, when you just can't handle life at all.
Yes.
I mean, 4 days later, I still can't handle life. But that day was horrible. As you just said to me, I don't think anyone looked each other in the eye that morning. It was just like, fucking, let's go home.
We will definitely get into all of that because I've got plenty to say. There might even be a Gav putting off section on that fucking Manchester Airbnb because it's unresolved at the moment dealing with that host. So we can get into that a wee bit later. I'm a little bit upset, but disappointed would be the word I would use about episode 100. I wanted us to be in a studio. I wanted the episode 100 to be us to sit in the studio and doing something different for it and marking it in some way. But after the show in Manchester and the way it fell conveniently just before Christmas New Year, it probably does feel quite fitting to mark it this way too. So I'd love to have been either in a studio or popping a bottle of champagne with you, but I will make do with my two promoters, one cup mug with a bit of coffee in it, and a Wednesday morning and your glass of water. The two is feeling sorry for themselves. I'm sure we can still have a cracking episode. It's been quite the journey, and we can get into it. This episode will be about the year or the 2 years we've now had, and then the tour debrief, all the stuff that happened to us. Again, behind the scenes, not so much the content of the tour that you would have heard if you were at the tour, but what it was like for us to go out again in a different manner, taking different people with us, a different show and different cities. So here's to that, Jamesy boy, to 100 episodes. Mate. Where will we start then? Will we start with the We Lost the Sea tour? Is that a bit of news update? Right, okay. So last week...
That'll liven you up, mate.
That will liven me up. That's another one. I mean, the timing, it doesn't matter so much in the sense that to We Lost the Sea or the tour or ticket buyers. But to me personally, the timing of the first national tour that I've ever been involved in with 3 bands that I feel so deeply about happening as I'm going city to city, planning my own shows to go. It was terrible. Because I feel like I could barely check in on what was going on, and I've had the chance to sort of savour just how successful it was. I mean, I woke up in that loft in Bristol that morning, getting the ticket sales update, but at the same time, still trying to pack my bags and run to get to the Rockstar van we hired. I would have loved to have done that with the space in my head to enjoy it a little bit more. Sales for that have been spectacular. I mean, Manchester at the minute's closing in 300 tickets in its first. I mean, it's not even been a week yet. This is on Wednesday. It's not even been on sale for a week. 300 tickets gone, almost 200 away for Glasgow. Those two shows are mine. I am the sole promoter for it. I know the sales of all the shows. I'm not going to tell you other people's sales for them. That's they can do that if they want to do that. But for Glasgow and Manchester, sales have been brilliant. Glasgow's, despite being brilliant, it's the last on the list. It's below everyone else. So even if it's marginally, I'm not accepting that. I'm not waking up in the morning and be behind Nottingham. Fucking Nottingham, for fuck's sake. So let's keep going, Scotland. Let's represent. It looks like we're going to absolutely pack Slate, and that's what we want, but we cannot be behind the likes of fucking Nottingham and Bristol. Come on. I'm not having that.
Fuck yeah. Well done, mate. It was a great I saw your excitement in real time as it unfolded last week. And we were in a van together, so it was fucking great.
Yeah,
really great.
And thank you to everyone who got behind that. I mean, that is definitely there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tickets sold before the bands had told their fan bases. Like, there was hundreds and hundreds of tickets sold just for listeners of this podcast before 10 a.m. In fact, there was a bit of fucking riot starting to kick off because for whatever reason, a technical glitch or whatever, the Nottingham ticket sales never popped up to like 9 or 10. So then people were going mental because why am I getting tickets for everyone except Nottingham? So it's incredible. It's everything we hoped that it would happen for us, and brilliant. It's going to be a fucking unbelievably good tour. So that is a wonderful starting point, James.
Absolutely, mate. It is. So look, let's just to give everyone an update of where we are in terms of episodes and stuff. It's been a fucking complicated time because we did the tour, so therefore there was sort of some talk about the tour before the tour, and now we've got to talk about the tour after the tour. And it turns out it's also fucking episode 100, so we need to mark that. And Christmas is coming, all of which is to say we're not entirely sure when we're going to do an Album of the Year pod. We're both ready to go. It's not going to be today. We want to take some time off at Christmas and be with our families. Also, Christmas Day is a Thursday.
Then New Year's Day is a
New Year's Day is a Thursday. So they're not great days to release podcasts. So I think this will be the last pod of the year. You never know. You might wake up one morning and we surprise you, but that is not currently the plan. The Album of the Year pod will come at some point. I did say to Gav some time ago, I really don't want to release the Album of the Year pod late, but I saw it coming, really. There's just no fucking suitable week to do it. You can't do it too early. Yeah. So it will come. For those of you waiting for it, I've got my notes ready to go, and I know Gav has too. So, but this is probably the last pod of the year. So fucking happy Christmas, everyone. And the next one will definitely be January the 8th. You might get one before that. January the 8th is a Thursday.
January 8th is when you guaranteed the podcast will be back. It'll be a 2-week break. So Christmas Day is Thursday, New Year's Day is Thursday, not releasing on those days. If we find ourselves with a drink in our hand and with the opportunity over the break to get on and chat shit, which, believe me, if James is up for it, I could easily be talked into it. So that maybe will happen, but we're just not going to commit to it, so then we feel like the pressure to have to go on and do it when we have our wives and children saying, any chance you can help us with this jigsaw or the turkey. So that's the planning. Tell me the truth though, James. When did you realise that this was episode 100? Just tell me the truth.
I've no idea, mate.
Then you never knew. You never fucking... You had not... I told you a few days ago and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
It was disappointing news, to be honest. So... for today, so we've ditched the news, no stats of the week. We're gonna talk about sort of our feelings on being at episode 100, and then we're going to talk to you about the tour after that. So I think it should be a good, fun episode. So I mean, let's get into it. Before we go to some questions, Gav, I mean, the fucking train keeps rolling, doesn't it? How does it feel to be at episode 100?
Yeah, I mean, we both fast. I mean, that's how in sync we are now with the chemistry. This pod is how in sync that both of us went to the fucking internet within the space of 3 minutes.
1 minute. It was 1 minute apart. Fucking hell.
To ask the question, we are doing this tomorrow. Does anyone want to ask us specifically about doing this for 100 episodes? And I mean, you like they always do. The listeners always deliver better questions than we could come up with ourselves. And so I think that they are they cover quite a lot of range. How I feel about it is, there's no chance when I was sitting there at the start that I thought I'd done Damnation Versus for 4 years. I made 36 episodes, and I know how much work it takes to go out and to do 36 episodes. I had a short run with Vicky for Bloodstock. We made 5 episodes, I believe. I know how difficult it is to get schedules to align, to make it work, to find the time to put it out, then to actually make it that people know about it and go and listen. So 100 episodes, I mean, episode 52 was really the target. I mean, genuinely, when we go, even when I was saying that, it's like, that's the reason for the year. Getting a pod out a week is such a commitment. If I can get James to that point, fuck, that would be... So episode 100 never crossed my mind. It never crossed my mind as being a target or a realistic goal. And here we are. And I won't get into it when people ask these questions, I'm still not quite sure where we are now. I mean, is this the beginning? Is this the beginning of something big? Is it the midway point? Is it tailing off now that we've kind of like, have we done everything? Like we joked before, if Manchester Bedshed sold out was as good as it ever got, none of us would complain. We'd be like, it was everything. It was more than we ever expected. So where are we with it? That's how I feel. I'm a bit like, fuck. Maybe because I'm just back off tour and I'm still a bit hazy, but I don't even know where we are in the lifespan of this podcast as we talk right now, episode 100.
No, who knows? Who knows, mate? I mean, you must ask yourself, what is there one factor that is different between the previous 2 podcasts that didn't do as many episodes and this one that is just flying? Is there one person maybe that has sort of changed things?
You know what? When you say the first factor to start, I was a bit like, I'm going to give you your credit, and I realised that's exactly what you're angling at. I was shocked. But okay, I'm not going to sit here and pat you on the back much more than I'm prepared to do. But I was shocked with the level of drive and commitment you ultimately got to. And at the start, I think it was very much for you, a wee trial by fire. I'll give it a shot. If I don't see results, I don't know how difficult it would have been to get you to episode 52 if everything didn't go quite as spectacularly from the start as it was. But once it was going at, and once you found your feet where it actually come on doing these, you were definitely making it so much easier for me to be the other hosting this, and right up to the fact that like you put together all the plans now, even when we're both bust, and that makes it really easy. And you know what, you really get those really difficult weeks, the weeks where there's just nowhere that I can fit it in, and there's nowhere that you can fit it in, and you know that both of us are saying we're fucking doing it, and that's the end of it. That's the weeks that keep the podcast going.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fucking weird fucking hidden thing here where this has just worked, that between us and the sort of different personalities that we are and different ways we work, is somehow that all the jobs have fallen into a place, and it just keeps fucking rolling. So I'm clinging on to the train as it goes past.
my dignity, pride, my soul's everywhere else, but I'm clinging on to this fucking podcast.
Yeah, I haven't managed to cling on to my soul this week. So let's ask some questions then. So Greg Blakely asks, the original plan was to record 52 episodes and then call it a day. At what point did you both feel you'd keep going? When was that cemented? And were there any memorable conversations around that?
You know, I wish. So here's the truth, right? Like it always is. This is episode 100. I started this podcast as chaotic as I started episode 15, 32, 47, 64. We were supposed to be on at 11. Is now 20 to 12. I printed off my notes seconds before I was due to come on. I hadn't plugged in the mic. It's like the idea of us sitting down at some point and recognising a conversation when it all went well as we were pre-planning for the next week ahead is so idealistic. I wish we did, because I always kick myself when I'm scrambling around. And to be fair, we'd both do it, because you've got shit going on in your house too, and you're a bit like, we can push that to 8:30 or 9:45, it's supposed to be 8. And there's sometimes you're like, oh, it'd be good just to sit down with a bit clearer headspace. And then, I don't know, at some point you get acceptance, and maybe that's just how I work, you know? And maybe that's why some things sound spontaneous, or they come off the equipment, or people find things funny. It's because I never had the chance to sit down and, let's write a joke in there and say about how James has never felt the touch of a woman. I mean, I'd never write that on a plan, but I'm quite happy to see it. Quite happy to see when it comes to off the top of my mind. And maybe the only thing I'm ever going to sit down and properly organise my life is damnation. And I don't remember a point when I was like, okay, I'm sure I remember 15, 20 episodes in, I mean, certainly by the August of the first year, when people started supporting us financially, you're a bit like, at the start you're doing it, and In-Laws Brews came on and made sure that we weren't paying money to do this, which from episode 1, which I'm hugely appreciative of. But there's no money getting made from it either, so there was no real sense of the way we spoke before about you need to put something out. When people are paying for your content, you really have a responsibility, an obligation to make sure you're delivering. And by that August, I was a bit like, well, we're kind of in now. I mean, it's like, why wouldn't we? My biggest fear, again, maybe one of these questions tackle it, is when you just run out of content, when there's nothing left to say, that it's a bit like everything's got a natural shelf life. That was my one fear. But I don't think it was, unless you feel different, there was one moment that clicked where we felt like, this is it. This is...
No.
Episode 52 or episode 100 or episode 200 is definitely in the bank now. I've always felt that it's always been dangerously close to the edge, and not because we didn't enjoy doing it, but just either weren't able to do it or the content wasn't there to do it.
I think when I look back at starting 2000 Trees with no plan, and then once we'd done one, you're like, well, we've got to fucking keep going. And then it just never stopped. And it's fun, and it makes some money. So like, it's kind of the same with the pod. It's like, there was no discussion. You just like, well, you did like, I mean, really, the start wasn't fucking amazing. We didn't come in at like, we're at our best already. We've built to a place where we're much better than we were at the start. And so once you've done those fucking first 3 episodes, I think we recorded them all in the same day. What are you going to do next week? Just go, that was it. See you later. You keep going. And then all of a sudden you find that, yeah, people are paying you, you're on tour, and you've got sponsors and various sponsors, and all of a sudden it's a real thing, which I enjoy a lot. It makes money, and it makes some hidden benefit to the festivals, which we can't quantify, but it's fucking massive. And in some ways it's part of my other job. Like if I said to Rob and Si, I'm going to fucking stop the podcast, I think they would say, well, fucking, that's a shame, because it's good for trees in ATG, right? It's just
and also, the connection now you can quantify it a bit better than Damnation can, because you've got a pod, and you're, well, James, go and find the other avenue that's getting you 10% of the ticket sales, mate. That's now your job.
Yeah, well, quite. I mean, and I don't know, man. I mean, it all feels like a bit of a dream. Like sometimes it's like, doesn't feel real. Like when you're out, actually, it's one thing me and you chatting, and then seeing some people that you don't know on social media. But it's another thing standing in Cardiff and people telling you how amazing the live show was and how much the pod means to them. And that sort of thing is like, fuck me, this is just fucking crazy. Listener numbers continue to grow. So there was never a discussion. We just keep on rolling, I think.
We just keep on rolling. Andrew Goodbury, who I recall meeting in Manchester, what would you change if you go back in time and re-record those first pods? Now, we recorded the first 3 pods on the same night, and that's those are the only ones where we had no insight to what it would mean to anyone, or if anyone would listen. I mean, that's a proper shot in the dark stuff. By episode 4, it already changed, because we get such a huge amount of listener interaction from the first day that it changed the way the pod be. But I presented the pod to James as a 30-minute pod. You would take a small issue like, I know, the Slayer situation, Dylan just escape plan, try to get booked for the UK, and the Bollock of Billing, and you would have a 30-minute chat about it, and that would be that. And then we saw very quickly that was never going to be the route that the podcast would take. There was so much interest, deep interest from listeners, that they wanted stuff answered. And as soon as that became a part of pod 4, pod 5, there was no way it could be 30 minutes. In fact, if you go back and you listen to that first 10, 15 pods, I make quite a big deal about trying to keep the time down, until at some point you just accept that's not how the structure is going to be. It's never going to be under an hour, unless you take the questions out, or you take the what you've done that week out, which is not what people seem to want at the time. So My big takeaway from the first three, and this could only be done, I'd done podcasts before, and I was also a journalist, so I'm quite happy, not to be in front of a camera, but I'm quite happy to be in conversation and ask questions. You weren't got that comfortable with it. It wasn't something that you'd done. You'd been in interviews plenty, but you'd never have been asked to come on and be part of the coast. So I think if you go back to that, those ones, I'm quite dominant in the conversation, which is something I wanted, but I was filling the gaps because at that point your confidence wasn't there just to jump in every time you should have. And it's weird that's something about me, because Kerry mentioned at the live pod, like, it's amazing that you two never talk over each other. Like, even in conversation, you're sitting with your mum and your dad, how often do you just butt in each other's conversation? And we've developed that over the time. And that's more down to you recognising when the gap's there to talk, and me recognising having the confidence to stop talking to allow you to talk. Which are the very first ones, if you go back and listen to them, I'm talking a lot because I'm trying to fill the silence, and I'm not in any rhythm with you at the time.
Yeah, and that's something that we've just naturally, I find that really easy on the recorded pod. It is actually more challenging live, a lot more challenging live. And I still think we are, when we get to tour 10, we'll look back at tour 2 and think, fuck me, we're so much better at this now. I think there's loads we can learn, and we'll talk about that later. But in terms of this recorded stuff, much easier now, and we've definitely got into a way. I still think you take more of a host role, which is much more natural for you to be like, and this is next, and here's Lou's Brews, and here's the Patreon, and you're very good at that. And I think we tried to split ourselves into what we're good at rather than forcing stuff on each other. But this, like, for those first episodes, they were pretty fucking shady, like, not shady. They weren't great. They weren't brilliant. There's a fucking coughing fit for me. So my mate Proctor, I saw him at Trees this year, and he said to me, "I can't believe I listened to the podcast because I don't like the music, but I really love it. It's fucking," I don't know if he said love, but I'm going to put words in his mouth. He thinks it's the best thing ever. But he's like, I wasn't sure when that first episode came on and you're fucking coughing, and I was like, this is going to be a car crash. And I was like, fuck, I'd forgotten about the coughing. Which now, if that happened, we would have had the confidence to stop and edit it, I think, or I'd have known where the mute button was, would have also helped. And also, we didn't know what the plans should be then. Like, the Slayer episode isn't great. We go round and round in circles on it. Even the Dillinger episode is not something that I don't think we would do that episode now, not in the same way. It might be a new segment at the start. So we were learning what works. And then was the third one the Ball Lake of Billing?
Ball Lake of Billing, that's why, it's like, because we can pile on in ourselves and be a bit of like, oh, listen back and how amateurish we are, how we got wrong. But I think the real superstar, the real one that cemented our listenership for episode 4 was the Ball Lake of Billing. And I would still suggest, if you've not listened to that, go back and listen. I don't know if you'd notice an incredible amount of difference in the way that I talk, I present, or like my nerves and everything like that. You might notice it, James, because again, it wasn't like James had a chance with the Dillinger Escape gamble and then he had a week to digest, and then we stopped at 5 minutes later, started the next episode. So you're getting James on the exact same night. But I feel when you go back and listen to it, you'd be like, you know what, for the first night, that's a fucking damn good episode.
Yeah. And then I suppose for a bit we thought that was like the gold standard episodes type, where we go into some really detailed sort of technical information about how, then we did episodes on riders and costs and stuff, those sort of episodes. But then you quickly work out that there are fucking loads of different types of episodes. So I don't know. I wouldn't go back and re-record those pods. I think they were part of the thing. And what we've sort of hung our hat on is being real and just being like, it's okay to say you were learning as you go, because we're supposed to be behind the scenes. So we didn't do like secret episodes, like a professional podcast would do loads of pilots that no one ever fucking heard.
Yeah.
Right. They would have their exact way the podcast runs before it goes out, but we just fucking winged it a bit.
Yeah, or record for 2-3 hours and then just cut out the best bits. But I think some of the magic happens in bits that we might have thought at the start, like, oh, cut them in. Because it's not always just mistakes or coughing into mics or sniffling into mics. It's also stuff you're a bit like, I kind of fucked that up. And then a lot of those things become the jokes and the memes. And also, And I get it. A lot of people talk about their favourite podcast, say it's like listening to your mates in the pub. It's like it's got a generic compliment that goes across a lot of podcasts. But the only reason ours feels like you're listening to your mates in the pub is because when your mates are talking in the pub, they make mistakes and they talk shite and they slip up. And when we do that as well, rather than it being this polished head, oh, look at these two guys, they never make a mistake. I spoke to Gav and Tangent and he is not that polished, I promise you. I mean,
No.
so it's like insight to that. And because we only speak to each other one time a week, there is a freshness to it also.
Agreed. And that sort of leads on quite nicely into Josh Payne's question, which is it easier to think of content now or when you started out? You had a blank slate on day one, but now you've got the chemistry and the dynamic of an established podcast.
See, I would say no. I have no idea what episode 101 is going to be. It's a mild terror that sticks with me forever. I don't know how we could continue to just pull something out the bag. Sometimes in the last minute, I'm trying to build confidence in the fact that we have done it, and something does happen to break. You do get a big announcement for download, or there is what's this sick new world, or there's something, a documentary comes out that people really want, an amazing question from a listener. But right now I have no idea what episode 101 is going to be, and I'm just trying to trust the process.
Yeah, absolutely. We always get there, and I think every so often you're like, I mean, for instance, we're currently due a guest, right?
Yes.
And I wanted to do a guest just before the tour, but we just got a bit rushed. We've got a number of guests that we want to have on, and most of them will be up for it. And we just got a bit rushed. So those big topic episodes, there are also still loads of those we could do. Like we could do an episode on organising security and some funny stories around that. Or, traffic management. I mean, there's loads of shit that goes on at festivals that I think people would be interested in, as boring as traffic management might sound.
You're not selling me episode 101 that well. Well, in 2026, we'll talk about traffic management.
Mate, it's just a story about Simon pushing cars out the mud. It's great. But, on the other hand, we've got a much broader idea of what people like. So some people like the serious interviews. Some people like a drunken Q&A. Some people like those technical episodes, or the more personal ones where you're like talking about your holiday or whatever. And if we can do a bit of all of those, and the listeners just keep fucking edging up, and then every so often sometimes it plateaus, but it never goes down. So, and then it'll start going up again. So while people are interested, we'll keep going. And I think we've got a fucking long list of stuff. Do I know what episode 101 looks like? Well, hopefully album of the year. But then 102, fuck knows. But let's get a guest on. And, that's how we go. And then next thing you know, 104 will be another Q&A. And
yeah,
I don't know.
It's, there is a nice structure. Then we will always have news for the 3 festivals that we organise. And I have such a huge chunk of listenership care deeply about those 3 festivals. That's why they've arrived here. So there is a nice safety net that we do have big announcements coming. I mean, there will be a damnation, there has to be a damnation lineup announcement in January, which we can get things kicked off of that. So there is some sort of, but I don't feel, Josh, I don't feel like I'm sitting here that, and it's crazy because when we started, we did not have 10 episodes planned. We didn't have an episode, but if you ever listen to, any motivational speaker in business or whatever, they'll always tell you, like, there is never a right time to start a festival, to start a cafe, to start a garage, to fucking make that plunge and go and start a new hobby. You just need to get started. I mean, you will learn on the job, and that's how I felt about the podcast. I feel like if I had to sit down here and go for 25 episode plans and whatever, you would never know what you knew anyway, because I would never know about all the fan interaction. I'd never know about the weekly waffle and on the record and all the stuff we've built into it. So at some point, you just need to pull the trigger and go, and if it fails, it fails. And that's the scariest bit. That is the scariest bit. What if no one listens? What if no one cares? What if you just end up with a bit of egg in your face? And that's the terrifying bit when it comes to promoting and doing the podcast. And you just have to face up to the well. That's what happens. You want to do anything worthwhile, there's a risk is you're going to fail at it. And if you fail, you just have to fucking dust yourself down and try something else.
But also, I don't want to speak for you on this, but I think you probably would agree. Don't all this sort of bumbling around and technical issues and laughing and joking and having drunken episodes and stuff. don't underestimate how much we give a shit and how much I care about being good at this, and like how I'm desperately trying to be the best at this that I can be. And again, I'm like fucking whipping myself on the live show because I want to be better at it. And like, you know, I think it's just constantly striving to make this podcast better is an important part. So here's a good question. Francis Atkinson says, if the other pod hosts were to suddenly be incapacitated, who in the industry would you carry on with? Well, Gab is a serial adulterer in this regard, so we know he's got a list. We know he's got a list. Genuinely, and actually, if one of us was incapacitated, I can imagine Gav carrying on with someone else. I don't know who that would be. I can't think that there is anyone else that would suit my personality in the same way that Gav does. His the more enthusiastic elements that Gav brings to it, and the drive, and able to sort of host it, and somewhere between Gav being funny and Gav ranting, and the bits of his personality that aren't like mine, I think is why the podcast works. And for me, I look around, I've said this before, but I look around at all the people I do festivals with. There's some very interesting people. There's some very funny people. Can't imagine doing podcasts with any of them at all. I wouldn't want to. So nobody.
That's very heartwarming.
You don't have to say that.
That's not me. I'm fuck, well, I think you know me well enough that I wouldn't. But that is very heartwarming. We've done this too long as Two Promoters, One Pod. These being the two promoters for this to continue in this form with this name without you being the other half of this. It doesn't make sense. Try to force it, and I don't think I'd like the whole process. There's a lot of James fans that listen to this podcast, and they don't want to see a replacement for James. Would I do it? If you, okay, so when you say incapacitated, right, so you end up in hospital with a broken leg, nothing serious, right? But there's no way for you to set up a Zoom call and sit in the Would I go for a couple of weeks and bring on, I remember Paul is great for a chat with. Would I do a guest and see the podcast through? Like James will be back in 3 weeks' time and I will host this for a couple of pods. Yes, I would. If you decide you were done with it, I wouldn't continue Two Promoters One Pod as Two Promoters One Pod. I would be open to the suggestion of being involved in another industry podcast as a member of a panel or a table or hosting it or whatever. I would quite happily go on in the podcast world. I would not do Two Promoters One Pod without you.
Lovely.
That's good. Merry Christmas. Evan, our good friend Evan, it was gutting that he couldn't make it along to see. Evan's the drummer for Walmart, obviously, and long-term listener, flew across from Ireland for the first Manchester show, bought tickets for the second Manchester show, but I think that life just kind of caught up with him a wee bit. He'd been out in tour and just he had nothing left to give to get across and do it again, which gutted not to see you there, Evan. What would the highest and lowest points been for you with regards to the podcast in the last year, Jamesy boy?
I mean, I think it goes without saying that the low point was Bry, yeah. And I don't feel like I ever really talked about that in any depth, and I'm probably not going to now either. I feel like I couldn't give it the quite the sort of the level of I don't know, gravitas or seriousness or something that it deserved, and you could, because you had such a long history with Bry. But I only had amazing interactions with Brian, like personally and professionally, and he was it was a huge thing when he left, and I'm really sort of glad that I met his mum at Damnation, and that was quite an emotional moment meeting his mum. Wasn't expecting her to be, but I knew she would sort of be in the building, but I didn't realise that we would be introduced. So yeah, I mean, just it was just a massive thing for the podcast and you personally and your life and your friend. So it was a low point, and no doubt you will talk more about that. I mean, the other low point, which we talked about on the tour a lot, just sort of lightening stuff back up, was me falling out with half the fucking universe in 1 week, which I did do. And if you didn't come to a live show, I'm not going to tell you about it all now, because the one thing we managed to pull off at this live show this time is we did talk about stuff that we wouldn't have been able to talk about on the recorded podcast. And hopefully that was interesting for people. Be really interested in people's feedback, actually, on what they liked and what they didn't like. But that was a real fucking low point.
Why do low points as well? So we're not going up and down with the roller coaster, but we're going to high points. I mean, for you, like that low point, I was just heading off to, fuck knows, one of my holidays. When you were going through that shit, when you fell out with half the industry, and I could hear it, and I know how it is that way, like that whole turn in your guts. You just feel like, because you're never quite sure, and it was one of those ones where, I mean, you talk about the podcast. I think I said to you privately when at that time, like, I've got your back with this, wherever it goes. Like, I've got your back with it. So don't feel like you're just a fucking man stranded out there on an island where the industry coming after you. We can fucking go and fight them all together. And I mean, I could hear it. I could hear it in your voice that it's getting in. It's promoting, especially when a festival promoter, is quite a lonely spot because there's not many of us out there. And then when you're a festival promoter with a podcast and then industry coming after you, that's an even lonelier spot. But I'm glad that all panned out and sense prevailed, and people that were upset became less upset. And I'm glad that wasn't too bad in the end.
Yeah, it did muller me that week. And the weird thing about the podcast is sometimes you come on and you go, fuck me, this has been a disaster. But that was like a don't make it worse thing. So that was like a let's not come on and talk about it. So then you're like trying to G yourself up to just do another episode when you're like, I fucking hate the world and I've fucked this up and I've fallen out with at least 3 people that I didn't want to fall out with. And yeah, it's quite hard to sort of pick yourself up. But now it just seems like a dim and distant memory. So I'm back.
I mean, Bry's obviously the low point. I really didn't take a question in that because that's just such a massive factor. I mean, losing. I mean, that's not the podcast. That's the year. The way that I look at it. I mean, even I'm still dealing with stuff now where I was just about, fuck, I wish Bry was here. I mean, like, me and Bry would have just got together and knocked this out the park and sorted this and done that. So that's a daily thing for me. Because I did speak to him daily. Bry and I were in contact every single day when it came to damnation and pod-related matters, and then the odd bit I mean, he's got a private guy, but the odd bit where it was up to the weekend, whatever. So clearly, Bry, it has been great to be able to have a connection with his mum and his family and let them in to see how much Bry meant to so many people. So that's been great. I mean, a pod-related thing that wasn't Bry, that trip from Manchester to Leeds on the first that trip from Manchester to Leeds on the first live tour was certainly a low point. I mean, like, I was on the motorway looking for lampposts to hit. I was like, it's a 1 hour drive. We were 4 days in. I was rattling. I had no sleep. And the idea, it's difficult because this has never happened to me before. I mean, everyone's had a hangover. I've had biblical hangovers. I've had hangovers that take me a week to recover for boys' holidays. But I've never had one where I had to perform that night, where I had to get out on a stage and be something that someone had paid to see and they deserved to see the best version of that. And that in your soul was fucking horrifying. Like getting into the bid now, I just try to get myself picked up, and I got there in the end. But that was a learning point. And when we get into the tour chat later, I'll explain maybe why I wasn't so willing to just jump into after shows at 3 or 4 in the morning, because that's not what's possible. So anyway,
you were real fucking sensible on this tour, mate. I really commend you for that.
And you were a fucking headache, and your deadlines were never deadlines for one last rum. I swear to God. So tell me about your highlights, which might be you sitting in a flat at fucking 4 in the morning saying, 1 more rum.
I mean, my high point was the first tour we did in March. I don't want to compare it to this tour. It's different. But because we'd never done it before. I mean, fuck me. I kept saying to you this week, like, my nerves are nowhere near as high as they were last time in March. We went out of Brighton. There were some nerves, but not that bad. But when we went out of Bristol, I fucking wasn't sure if I was going to be able to use my legs to get up the steps onto the stage. And to then be able to sit in front of your fucking family and your friends and do it and feel like you did a pretty sort of 7, 8 out of 10 job and you were happy with it. And then to have the highs of, like, particularly Manchester on the last tour, It was a real fucking like, fuck me, that is a new life experience. I never thought I'd do. And I feel like we did it pretty well. Could we do it better? Yes. But what a fucking thing to have done. I feel like I will be telling my fucking grandkids about it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's odd because, again, we'll get into it a bit later, but when you're talking to people keep telling you about, oh, this is how important, how special it is to me. And I'm trying to like really, but I never dreamed of becoming a podcaster. I mean, never mind dreamed about a podcast of being stage. So it's a bit like a cliche to go, I'm living my dreams because of you, but you're allowing me to do something in my mid-40s that I never even thought was a fucking option. Like, to be up on a stage and being part of a successful show and a sold out, like, it's like, I need to be here thanking you. You don't need to be thanking me. And that's, you're entirely right. I mean, my high point was Saturday. The first 50 minutes, when I came off stage after the first 50 minutes, I can't remember the last time I'd felt fucking like more elated. I was out, as Tom Begg likes to hear me say, I was buzzing out my bin lid. I was absolutely, I mean, you saw me. I
thought you were going to explode. I was fucking scared by you.
I couldn't believe, like, I get up there, I've got a lot of nervous tension, and I get hot and sticky, and that's why I always change my t-shirt at half time. It's not because I'm Britney Spears. And with that one, I noticed I felt like we get into such a flow state on the stage, and everybody, I just felt like us in the audience were one, and it was just like everybody's buzz was in the same level, and they were all just bouncing off each other. I mean, we had plans for both halves, and then every show we've ever done, we pretty much get to where we're supposed to get to, and it's like 45 minutes, and off we go. I mean, we were at like over 50 minutes, and we hadn't touched half the fucking sheet in front of us. In fact, I don't remember the last time looking at the sheet in front of me. It just felt like the whole thing was one organic performance between us and the audience, and everybody's involved. And I just walked off and I was like, I don't know if a show will ever be better, ever feel better. And then the second half, which we'll get into, it didn't turn out that way, which is a real breaks my heart a little bit. But that walking into that dressing room for that 30-minute interval was as good as I've ever felt about anything, really, never mind just doing this podcast. I was fucking beside myself with joy and excitement and a sense of accomplishment when we came off in that first half, and that was the highest of the highs.
That is true. Let's revisit that later. So the last question is from Tom Redmond. Can you see yourself still doing this in 5 years? Weekly episodes, tour every year, the works, ?
I mean, let's just be honest with the 5-year thing. No, is that I think that everything, even the greatest fucking TV series in the world, have a shelf life that you get to a point where, right, it's been done. It's been fucking milked for everything. And milk's the wrong word because we wouldn't do it that way. But everything that's there. 5 years feels like, so when you say 5 years ago, no, that seems like a nonsense. But then I actually think, well, in February it'll be 2 years we've been doing this podcast, and I feel like it just started. So as much as 5 years right now feels like, oh, us get into our 50s doing a pod, well, that's what, if we still get anything to say, people still interested in listening. Honestly, get into your 50s.
Stop fucking saying that out loud, mate. I let you say it once, but fuck me.
I'm a bit like, it seems unrealistic. But when I was asking James to come on this podcast, be 2 years in and feeling like it's only really just getting started would also sound like a fantasy. So I'll give you my honest answer, Tom, that no, I can I see myself doing it in 5 years? But I mean, fucking hope I am, because the only reason I'll still be here doing this is if you guys are all still listening. We are not, but at this point now, when we see a decline and we see a drop off, I think we'll identify it, and we're not going to do 6 months of a podcast begging for people to listen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do 3-year plans or 5-year plans in any of my fucking life or work. So I'm not about to start. I mean, I feel like no one ever knows when most footballers don't realise it's their last game, and most fucking festivals don't realise it's their last festival, and probably the same in podcasts. And I definitely said to you more than once before Manchester, we think we're on the up, and the fucking what's next? This might be the biggest amount of people we ever do a thing to. And let's just enjoy it like it is the fucking best thing that's ever going to happen.
That's such a healthy view, though. It's such, like when you said that to me, it was such a healthy view, because I probably felt that way subconsciously, but never said it out loud, that this might be the pinnacle. So don't go into it and thinking this is a stepping stone, because you go into stuff and think it's a stepping stone, you don't get any time to enjoy it for what it is and savour it for what it is in that moment.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just fucking riding the wave at the moment. We're not going anywhere. So if people want to listen to us, we'll fucking still be here. And who knows how many months or weeks or years that is. So, yeah.
Okay. Long may it continue. You guys stick with us. We will stick around. So,
You know what can make us do more episodes, Gav?
Money. You go face. And you love a bit of fucking money, man. I'm a bit like, okay, I'm not too money to be like, I've got a nice holiday to pay for. I want another nice holiday. So yes, guys, I'm here with you, whether you pay or not. James is very much like, pay me and I'll stick around. And on that note, our patron, last week's was somebody, it was a Lee Davis. And unfortunately, it was somebody called Rich Lee Davis who was desperate for it to be them. It isn't you. The email address is different. So if you are Lee Davis, I don't know why we're failing to catch up with some of the super subs. Probably going to go back, listen to who it was that's been picked up the last few times, and then just email them so we can get ourselves caught up getting into the new year. But where we are right now is still due to get a new one, and the lucky name, Mrs. Catfinch. Unless there's two of you, I am pretty certain that Catfinch will be of Razor's Edge. And well, I didn't realise that she supported the Patreon, so first off, thanks very much for that, Cat. Greatly appreciated. And do your worst.
You know what we need? We need Sarah, who is listening to this on her last day of the year before Christmas, and I'm going to give her a job. We need her to set us up an email address, which is like patreon@twopromotersonepod.com. And then anyone who, if you get picked out, that's the only way to contact us. Yeah. Not Gav has to go through 1,000 inboxes.
And that's good, because it is quite and we'll leave the responsibility on you, which isn't entirely fair, because it's one of those ones where, yeah, if you get in touch with us through Ko-fi and I'm away checking the Instagram, email and the fucking direct messaging from the Two Promoters One Pod Facebook group, it just gets fucking, you've got no idea and you lose your track. So there may well be some outstanding super subs that I've just not caught because they've been in a message inbox I've not been in yet. So that's maybe a more clever way to do it.
And on that note, if you won something at the Manchester show out of the Christmas cracker, you need to get in contact with us to redeem those things. Yeah.
I mean, the way to redeem it, I mean, the damnation one is get in touch with me, and I'll speak to Paul and we'll send out a ticket to your email address. I'm sure it'll be the similar situation with James, just needs to get it to the right people in his team. And the people who won T-shirts, I hope you picked up your T-shirt on the day. So I don't be chasing this for a T-shirt, because you're going to be bored walking 7 steps to the merch desk to speak to Tom Begley. And what was at the merch desk? Our good friend Lou's Brews. Now, we didn't realise at the time, he brought sausages to Manchester. They were basically a gift. They were basically just gifts for us to sell to help generate money for the tour. Now, that is a fucking sweetheart move before Christmas, considering I don't know any company that would be like, oh, you know what, I'm going to miss out on the opportunity to make profit at this role. I'm just going to make more money for the guys on stage. So, Lou, you've been with us for day one. I don't want to do this podcast without you. They're called ad reads, but for me, I would talk about Lou's Brews anyway. I absolutely love the sausages that much. I enjoy talking about them. I'm so bad at it. Talking it, that I've friends that don't listen to the podcast who now buy Lou's Brews sausages. They probably don't even know the code. So let's continue on it. As long as it's doing the business for you, mate, we are more than happy to shout you out, and I will tell everyone about last night when I used the new hot sauce cranberry, one of your Christmas specials, on a burger, and it was fucking delicious. If anyone ever tried the strawberry switchblade one, it's very similar to that, but with a cranberry aftertaste rather than the strawberry. Hot as fuck, but still lovely. He's got a mild glazed one, star anise type flavour.
You know what you do with that?
On the ham.
Right.
So you do a big joint of ham, and you want it with something salty because it's got such a sweet star anise flavour. You want it with something a nice big salty bit of meat, and then it brings in that sweetness on the crust. He's done a video recently, but I mean, he's got a nice fancy barbecue that he does these things with his thermostats and that. But for just basic Joes like you and I, I'm sure you could just fire it in the oven and just make sure you're getting the mild glaze over top of it. But he done a video recently that Kelly was like, as soon as she saw it, was like, hi, hello. It was like, tell me about that ham. Tell me about how we get that ham sorted, because that mild glaze is going to my Christmas ham. So he's got cracking. He's got cracking Christmas was it? You might have missed this. It'll be the 18th before you get this. I think his last guaranteed delivery was the 16th, but he will still be posting. It's just up to Royal Mail. His last promise was by the 16th. If you hear this tomorrow, first class, there's every chance you'll still get your hot sauces. Either way, go and support them. lewsbrews.co.uk, pod 15 at checkout. Go and change your sauce life.
Yeah, support him. It was nice hanging out with him in Manchester. I like seeing Lou. And yeah, give him some support, please. Okay, so let's chat about the tour, mate. Let's do a little debrief of the tour. I mean, given how it all fucking finished up, we didn't debrief the tour, did we? We might have tried at 5 a.m. in a squat in Manchester, but really we didn't. So, I mean, just to start at the beginning, just to let everyone know, there was 4 of us this time. Last time we had 3. So Tom Begley came again. Mr. Merch managed our merch, occasional tour management duties if he deemed them to be on his list of things.
He will not be happy with like the merch. Like, he's a tour manager. He's a tour manager who does merch, but we find him as like a merch seller who, when it suits him, he dips in and does a bit of tour managing.
Yeah, and then Shifty came. Shifty was our driver, videographer, and fucking anything we could think of. He was quite happy to adapt as the day went on. So a fucking brilliant team. You get very close on those sort of things, don't you? It's like you're in each other's pockets. You better fucking hope you get on. And we did, I think. Obviously, and we had a history of the 3 of us, me, you and Tom. So then to add Shifty in is a new dynamic, but I thought it worked brilliantly. And
It did.
He was a fucking legend. We also upgraded our van to a Rockstar van where me and you were very excited. It's not really a Rockstar van, but it had a table and fucking chairs you could sit around in the back.
Yeah. So
which just means you can drink on the journey.
So on the first tour, obviously we're trying to save money where possible, and we just got like your rental van, the 3-seater transit van. Now that's James. James is a big lad, and there's not a lot of space in the fucking net, so that's quite uncomfortable. If these are jammed in the front seat, nowhere to move, can't move right, can't move left to get stuck, long journeys. And it was fine, but it wasn't pleasant. Well, this is James and I, well, even if it was me, James and Tom, sitting in the back, that's like 6 seats, table in between. Like, it was class. I mean, we can, well, there was one day that I needed to sleep, and I had basically a bed. I just wrapped a few seatbelts from myself and wrapped myself in a jacket and went for a sleep. The van was a lifesaver. I mean, the van was so good. We're talking about trying to get a tour bus for the next tour, which is completely unnecessary, but that's just what we want.
That would be great, right? Fucking hell. And no Manchester fucking holes to stay in as well. So, I mean, in terms of the content of the show, I mean, we'll talk about each individual city that we went to, but what we talked, it was quite different to the last tour. So we went through sort of our year in review, like some behind the scenes stories that we couldn't do on the recorded version of the podcast. So we talked about Kneecap. We talked about me falling out with half the music industry. We talked about the real crippling alcoholism story and some new billing stuff and billing nightmares. There was a section on funny festival fails. And we also had Tom on stage all 3 nights to do Tom's tour tales. Some good stories. I'm not sure what my dad thought of Tom's fucking tour tales, but my mum and dad and you, as Tom was telling the fucking Mexican fucking story, I was like, oh my God, my mum and dad are here. But each night there were quite different shows. We had a slightly different plan each night, and because of the audience, they panned out differently. But that was broadly speaking if you didn't come, what you missed. So come next time.
When all the stories are different.
Yeah. Those stories will never be told again.
What about the planning, James? Can you? Now, I know that we were. Well, I was busy with our festival, and you were busy recovering from a festival. We need. Is that just something to blame Tom for? Well, who are we blaming for the fact that we were still getting hotels and flights on the Monday of the week? So I was due to travel on a Wednesday, and we were still sorting. We had no accommodation in any city by the Monday. Who are we blaming for that?
Well, I'm happy to take my share of the blame, because what actually I would do if this was the festival, I think you said earlier in this episode, like the only thing you can actually be organised on is damnation, and the podcast, we wing it. And look, what I would want to do next time is have a fucking better defined list of responsibilities before and after, because I don't think it was clear who should have booked the van and who should have booked the travel. And so therefore no one did until the last fucking minute. I mean, you were booking hotels 2 days before. It's not ideal. It was actually all fine in the end, wasn't it? But then there were some things once we were out there, we were like, oh yeah, we haven't thought about this, haven't thought about that. So just a higher level of organisation, but it's unclear sometimes as to where the job falls, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like a game of fucking who can wait the longest until someone does it.
Who's going to sit the longest without that food or cider or whatever until somebody goes, right, okay, fuck it, we'll do it. So we went, because the hotel started to get too pricey at that time of year, and also there's something about hotels that are just a bit stale, and like you're all in your own individual room, and I'm sure that's great if you're on tour for 4 months and your own individual room would be the dream, but we're on tour for 3 days or 4 days if you go to Bristol. You want to be with the people you're touring with. You want to be having a drink and a laugh and food with the people that you're touring with. So we took the Airbnb route. It started, and I had to get from Glasgow to Brighton somehow, and there wasn't really any solid plan for that. So I ended up flying to Bristol to be picked up by Shifty when he was going to be picking you up, and that was a fun old night. I ended up in a lovely wee granny's loft, but still in a granny's loft. And I mean, a story we did tell on the tour, which I'm sure there's no issue telling again, was me inviting you back and walk. You had to walk through the house. And I'm walking through the guy who owns the bits there, and I'm like, hi, this is my pal James, and I'm holding 2 service station cans of Jack Daniel's Coke, and you're holding 2 fucking cans of rum and Coke, and we're heading upstairs. Like, I mean, it definitely looked like we were up there for shagging. I mean, there's no way about it, and I never had the headspace to explain to him, this is a guy I do a podcast with, and I certainly wasn't going to go, well, no gay. So I was about like, I just like that nodded like knowingly, like, aye, okay, mate, I'll be up for a bonk.
Yeah, the look he gave me was an interesting one, but was fair enough on his part. But it was not. We had a nice time in the pub. We didn't really talk about. We were like, let's meet up and we'll plan the live show. But actually, we just chatted shit, which was nice. And so yeah, it was a good first night. And then Shifty picked us up,
and the rock band, the rock star
that
band,
morning, and we drove to Brighton, and we felt like rock stars on the way, getting driven there with us sat around the table. Brighton was the only day we actually got to do what you always say we should do. Like, let me get to somewhere, like do something. Like I've got the Man United game, or fucking go to a nice spot in Cardiff. The only place we got to do anything nice during the day is Brighton. And we just got there early enough. We were taken, very, very generously taken for a meal by an agent. It seemed to be a bit of a business meeting between you and him that happened beforehand, and me and Shifty got the payoff of having a lovely curry bought for us afterwards. So that was spot on. And then when I was starting to get like, we really need to go and find the venue and the digs and get ourselves organised, you're like, we are going to the pier. I was just like, you were so happy about going to the pier. I was like, I'm not telling the big man, no, let's go and get some pictures in the fucking pier. And it was a fucking lovely afternoon. There was a great moment on the pier where, you know, those, I don't know what you call them, where you get your photos taken and you put your head through the boards. And me and you realised at exactly the same moment that it was a it was a man holding a buxom lady in his arms, and one of us was going to be the buxom lady and one of us was going to be the man. And there was like a race, wasn't there, which you ultimately won.
I appreciate the confidence that you had when we both set off that you were gonna beat me in that race. And I'm fucking like, mate, the big man has got high hopes for this. So that was a great afternoon, and then we got up and we got to the. Unfortunately, we never saw it. We get a beautiful. It was described as a luxury seaside view flat. Turned out to be the case. It was unbelievable. I mean, the kind of place you'd take your wife for a weekend. It was beautiful, and we never got to see any of that. We got there at 2 a.m. or whatever time, and back up at 7 or 8 and out. But in between those times, we went to the venue, and at that point, still with a lack of planning a wee bit. But like, we want a setup. We want it to feel like Christmas. And basically, I'm wandering around Brighton, where I've never been in my entire life, trying to find the equivalent of a Poundland or something like this to get Christmas crackers and a tree and lights and fake snow and all that jazz. While Shifty's trying to get somewhere to park, Tom's trying to get the merch set up. But we got there. It's a tour, or even a short tour, of massive contrast night on night. And in Brighton, in the Hope and Ruin, the dressing room is not bigger than the office I'm sitting in now. It's almost identical size to the office. You could get 3 adult males in. After that, you're kind of single file shifting about each other. And I love everything about your enthusiasm that first day. You walked in, you saw it, and it's all covered in graffiti, and the seats are all worn and done, and there's one wee fridge in the corner, no mirror, and you walked in, and I fucking love it. I love it. It's immaculate, the dressing room. Until you realised you couldn't see yourself in the mirror, and then you were a bit devastated. But until that point, you're like, this is absolutely brilliant. And that's the feel that night had. It was a proper tiny venue, packed with a small crowd, and it was just a real good fun night.
Yeah. You feel like you're in a punk band in a venue like that. It's smaller, but it's got some of the vibes that Slay in Glasgow had, I think, and I really liked it. And like it was actually the smallest show we've ever done, wasn't it?
Yep.
And so that was quite a weird thing. It was just like, there's like 100 people in there, and it was a small room, but it just felt cool. I mean, the weird thing was there was 8 or 9 booking agents in the room, so that was like that made Brighton quite unique in that we started the show by talking about the booking agents, didn't we? And they'd submitted some questions, and I thought that was quite good. And like I was saying to you, I've never really thought this through exactly, but when we're doing it live, I'm always thinking about someone in the crowd. I can't really explain it. When I'm talking, I'm aware that certain people are there. And all I could think of that night was fucking hell, all these stories about billing and stuff. And there's like 9 booking agents sat in there. So It was quite a unique feeling for me.
And also, and could we say at the time, the booking agents here for fucking Megadeth and Misfits and previously Bob Villan, and you've got Between the Buried and Me and Conjurer and Rollo Tomasi and the guy that's in Rollo Tomasi. And it was an odd start to go out. I mean, I'm telling a crippling alcoholism story, and the guy who booked crippling alcoholism was the other side of that story in the audience as well. And that was and then I walk out on stage, and not only that, I knew that like Graham for Damnation and Natasha for Damnation were coming, but then I've got Luke Bell in the front row. Now, Luke Bell, the former singer of Panic Cell, we're now involved in production for Kings Leon and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he's the front row. So the first thing I'm going to do in the first show of the tour, I'm like, the fuck is Luke Belton here for? He's been like a mentor since Damnation 2004 going into 2005. So he's been a guy that's always been somebody I can ask a question about the industry. Just he knows so much. So that was like unbelievable. Like your first sitting down before you even said we go again, you've got Luke Bell in the front row just smiling at you like that audience pair of fucking 2 promoters, 1 pod joggies. I was like,
It's pretty funny that your mate comes and he doesn't tell you, but he chooses to sit in the front row. Fucking right in front of you.
I mean, that guy must have sorted me out about 10 grand worth of guest passes his entire life, and he wouldn't even let me sort him out a ticket for my own podcast. So that was great. And I got a chance to spend a bit of time with him afterwards and chat and say thanks so much for coming through. So, I mean, Brighton was just such good fun. And the first show was a tough one because you can write as much as you want a sheet of paper in front of you. And we have done. And then you come on this pod where it's recorded or you go out live, and a sheet of A4 paper full of text can disappear in 5 minutes, or some bullet points can take you 5 hours. You just don't know until you start. So when you go in that first one, you're always nervous about where you are, because the way you just do not want to be done is the content's run out and then you're just winging it, especially in a room. Like, at that point, if nobody puts a hand up with a question, and we never done any audience questions that night, but if no one puts their hands up in a question, then it's just Gav and James telling you about what they had for lunch. So it's mildly terrifying.
Yeah, it is. And because if you were a public speaker at a conference, or if you were a comedian, the two ends of the spectrum, you would probably have the majority of it completely planned. You'd know exactly what you were going to say. But because of the nature of how we do this and how real it is, you can't plan it. It would be shit if it was planned. So you've got bullet points, but you don't really know how long you're going to talk on anything for. So that makes it fucking mildly terrifying. And also the time management of it is weird. And the one thing I still haven't got used to on the stage is that I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know if you're thinking, fucking James is nailing this bit, he needs to talk for a bit longer. Or if you're thinking, come on, let's fucking move on to the next bit. And that sort of bit of it is just fucking is weird. And when it's going well, it's kind of okay. But if you have a little bit of a rough patch in a show, you kind of want to have this like secret superpower where I can pause the entire room and just have a quick chat with you and then carry on again. Fucking wanted to do that the whole of the second half in Manchester, but we'll get to that.
And I tell you what, this is what we'll talk about. Tom Begley. So we said to him beforehand, look, let's get you up a wee 10-15 minutes at the end. I mean, Tom, you've toured the world a dozen times. How many good stories must you have in it? But the probably people in the music industry, when they do it day in, day out, the outrageous and ridiculous becomes the norm. It becomes the shit that would blow the normal person's mind in the street. Never mind just minds and yours who see a lot about bands. To them, it's just like it's another day on the road. It's just that's their job. So it's actually tough trying to get a tour manager who's done tour managing for so long to think like someone who hasn't, and like all these things that to them would absolutely blow their mind. Stories that they'd be telling their mates for a year that you don't even repeat to anyone just because you're used to them. So we managed to get there with them. But he texted you before the show started, goes, I'm nervous. And that didn't even occurred to me. I was like, and I said to you, he's been selling merch for fucking, I mean, how difficult can it be? Like, I don't think he's nervous about selling the merch, Gavin. It's a beginning up stage. I'm like, oh, fuck, of course. And when he came up, he was as nervous as I've ever seen a man on stage. This guy who's played with Bosk to tens of thousands of people all over the gaff, supported fucking Killswitch Engage in Germany, and he's holding the mic like, I don't know, like a grenade. And he's come, in the first 3 minutes of that, he wasn't actually saying anything because he was that nervous. He forgot to look at the notes and he forgot what he was saying. And then he was just like mumbling one more dancers. They're like, oh no, we've just set ourselves on fire here. Like the end of this is going to be absolute. And what can you do at that point? There's no big button you can press. There's a trapdoor. Tom just falls off stage. You know what I mean? So thank fuck, it kind of again clicked into gear. And then the last actual 10 minutes, it was really good. But that first 3 minutes, just talk about nerves when you're up there. And him saying he came off afterwards, like, you don't realise it's the silence that kills you. It's when you're telling a story, there's nothing else happening. So then you get in your own head, I'm the most boring person in the world here. And what am I saying? Am I mumbling? Can anyone hear me? He said, that's the big guess. When you're upstage and you're playing leader, you can hear leader. And you can see a reaction out there. But when you're up and you're there and you're actually having to talk through it, it's fuck me. I don't think he expected that. And then it got, within 2 nights, it was already so much better.
Yeah, no, that's on me and you, because we'd forgotten that maybe he was as nervous as we were in Bristol, and like, James, and that we hadn't really prepped it with him. We were just like, come on, mate, out you
I
fucking
don't know,
come.
mate. We've done 12 shows in total. I'm not like, this is the fucking Jimmy Carr saying, "Oh, here's some pointers on how to get yourself through stage fright, whatever." I mean, I feel like we're pretty novice at this.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Well, as we'll get on to, but I think, yeah, I could have put my arm around him a bit better before that and really talked him through that. But he was, I thought he was great in Cardiff and Manchester. So really turned it around. Fucking well done, mate.
And well done the bravery as well. You have one the first night that was a wee bit ropey to get back up, because he could say at any point, "I don't fancy it. I'll just you tell a wee bit, like, oh, here's some Tom's too. He's busy in the merch stall. This is the one about the bus driver having a wank," and do that. I mean, we could do that, but he never. He stuck with it, and I think by the time he came up in Manchester, a big one thing, and this is another thing about what we've done every single night, is you learn the wee bits of what and the bits of don't. What we've done by Cardiff is we introduced a small section of fan questions for 5 or 10 minutes, and he was involved in it, and I think that took the pressure off him a wee bit, that he was already introduced and there and part of the show before he came up on stage, and then that made it easier to settle into the bit when the final 10 minutes was on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we had some fun in Brighton. We went to bed at fucking stupid o'clock. We regretted our life's decisions, and then we drove 6 hours to Cardiff. The problem with the new van is, because it encourages you to have a beer. I mean, I think just the cup holders on the table make me think you could put a beer here. So on a motorway, that means you're stopping once an hour, so because someone needs to go to the toilet. Poor old Shifty driving the van, but fucking long old way to Cardiff, wasn't it? And when we got there, I think we were quite shocked by the venue, weren't we? It was because it was, in theory, 200 capacity, but the room was fucking a lot bigger than that.
Nah.
So
I've been in rooms with 1,000 people standing there, like it was a wedding venue. I put a picture online. It was fucking huge.
Yeah, and they'd laid out all the tables on these big round sort of wedding style tables, so everyone would have sat in a circle around each table, and it was all a bit like, oh god. I mean, the staff were lovely. I would have to say they really looked after us there, and particularly the sound crew and stuff. They were really nice, but we were a bit shocked. So there was a big rejig of chairs and stuff, wasn't there? And it felt weird. And we went into, it was so different to Brighton. Went into the dressing room, and it's fucking bigger than my house, the dressing room. It's like fucking massive.
Yeah, it was just a wing of a union. It was bigger than the entire bread shed and the pub beside the bread shed. It was an entire wing of the union. It was so fucking big you never actually felt at any point it was like a dressing room, because you're like, what you do here? You get 800 people in here for a drink, and we're sitting at one table where we speak up in Lincoln Park. Yeah,
and actually, there's nowhere to dress in there, was there? Not that we do, although you do like a costume change. I think we were a bit worried then about how it would go, given the size of the room and stuff. But the crowd once we moved the seats to the front, the crowd were really attentive, really interactive, not in a scary way, hi Manchester, but in a just like nice interactive way. There was a couple of funny things that happened. Can I talk about the guy who snitched on me?
Yeah.
So I was like, basically, I just made a joke that whenever I say something about Bloodstock, it always gets back to them really quickly. So we had all that in flame stuff that the Entomb Enslaved. That's the name of the band.
Leprous.
Enslaved. Fucking hell, I'm terrible, aren't I?
You just went through a whole bunch of bands you don't book there.
Just none of them.
And Flames.
I had a bit of a moment. Cut that, Shifty. Leprous. So I just joked about the fact that whenever I say something regarding Bloodstock, it immediately goes back to them. And this guy just puts his hand up in the front row from me. And I'm like, all right. And he's like, it was me. Okay. So I actually met the guy after the show, and he was very nice, and he admitted that he was my snitch. But that was quite funny, and I thought we had a really nice chat with that audience, and it was a good show. Apart from me accidentally telling an anonymous story, and then 3/4 of the way stuck through the story saying the person's name.
Yeah. And
just being like,
then
oh
to
my
any
God.
industry type listening here, it has nothing to do with that. It was a personal story. It was a personal story that James, and to make it funnier, James, because oh shit, I shouldn't have said that name, and then the audience started chanting back the name.
Fuck's sake.
That was class. The Cardiff crowd were class. My only thing, I tell you what, see, without that crowd that night and them all being invested was, that could have really went sideways for us, because that was a struggle for me, because you go out in a room that big, it's lost. You've just went for Brighton, that anything, one person laughs in row 3 or claps or chants, and it feels like an arena's involved. You go to Brighton and 3 or 4 people are chanting or clapping or laughing, and it's just lost in this entire. I mean, there's a balcony above it as well. It was just like, it was so fucking cavernous. The being up there felt a wee bit intimidating, and that crowd really helped us through that. Some good stories. Set was a bit tighter than it was the night before, because we had to change it as well, because we never had the whole agent section, because there was no agents in the room. And Tom came up. I did a wee bit of I missed the magic of the Q&A. I know you're not a big fan of that, and we're going to talk about getting into like the any future tours do. I like the magic, because I think the best moments of magic happen when you throw that hand grenade into the crowd. And obviously some of the worst moments happen too. So we had a wee bit of that which led to the whole snitch pit, and had a bit of fun. Afterwards, we went out and said hello to everyone. And there was, as you said, it was quite nothing for what was about to come in Manchester, but it was quite intense. Because in Brighton, what happened is, by the time we went downstairs, we were sitting chatting mainly with agents, and Luke Bell and Natasha, and there was a guy, I think his name was Josh. It was his birthday, and bought us tequilas, and it was good. But it wasn't like the other 2 nights where you were going out into 100 people or 300 people and getting the fan account version. So with that night, you came back at one point, and someone had been pretty intense with you. And you came back and you're like, I think that was the greatest conversation I ever had. It's like, I got my mental from it, and it was like, and you could see it mattered to you, and like that was a sign of things to come. And that night, a lot of people, and I get this, I'm going to repeat this for each night. A lot of people at that point, it's 11:30, 12, let's go to fuel, let's go to this. But at that moment, that's exactly what we want to do. And we are talking ourselves out of it. And we're going, yes, let's go. Because by the time we still need to go and get all the merch packed up, all the stuff that's left of the rider, our stage set up, our wee daft Christmas trees and everything else, and take it to the van. And then the van has to go somewhere. So we know we're not getting to wherever you are until maybe 12:30. And if we're going somewhere at 12:30 for that one drink, it's never going to be that one drink. And then next thing you know, we're in a club at 3 a.m. with a 6-hour drive next day. So Tom and I managed to talk James and Shifty out of taking that decision for that night in Cardiff. And I saw that a couple of people were like, oh, you were supposed to come, you never came out. I apologise, but I suppose but for the next tour, I'm probably just going to be like, the rule's going to be there probably won't be an after show unless it's a final night, or if I show up, then I've made the wrong decision, but at least I'm there at that point.
Me and Shifty were there for you guys, but I do suspect that Gav made the right decision. I mean, just on that sort of note of like hanging out with people after the show, I do see, we're both on the Facebook group. I do see over the last 2 tours the odd comment about, or even at the festivals, the like digs at me about like, Gav obviously enjoys that bit more. He's more sociable, and I do find it quite a lot because the show is a very intense experience. Although we might look relaxed, I hope I look relaxed, but it's fucking intense, and you come off and you're immediately flooded with, did I do okay? How was it? Was I all right? And to just go straight out and go bang from person to person to person, it's fucking crackers. Is really quite a lot. And I try really hard to do it well, but it's not natural. It's not something I find natural straight after the show. And in fact, I'm always the one that's saying to you, let's fucking get out there. But as soon as I'm out there, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What was I thinking? And that conversation I had with that guy was, I won't name him, but he basically said to me on the podcast, you talk about you're not famous, and you're not important and whatever, and what you don't realize is that to us, you are famous and you're really fucking important, and coming out here or the weekly listen to the podcast affects our lives, and he just went on this story about how fucking amazing it was. And I was like, mate, it's a fucking one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me. And I just hope I remember it in the morning. And he got he had like a box of sort of special things with him that he keeps. And he got a coin out of his box and he gave it to me. It's like an old coin that he'd found. And he said, just keep that and you'll remember in the morning. And I was just like fucking blown away by it. I was really touched. Because actually 90% of the conversations you have after the show is people either asking you more questions or telling you about something that's happened in their lives, the gigs they've been to. But what he said really touched me. And I've get that my son collects coins and now he's got that coin. So
it was a really nice touch.
That was I feel quite emotional about that.
And it's weird to say, because I've got quite a lot to say about this and I don't know what to do at Cardiff. I'll leave it to the Manchester night, but I do not find that easy at all. I find it quite stress inducing and going, but I know how important it is and I know how much I enjoy it when I actually go and do it. And of course, the one bit about Cardiff that was really strange for me is when you're trying to do that, make sure you're getting to his. I got to everyone that was in Cardiff. I never managed to do this in Manchester. I got to everyone that was Cardiff that hung about, but there was two guys at the bar that were completely separate from the crowd that were mingling. And it's still a student bar, and people are milling about this entire venue. There's fucking bits of it opened all over the place. And there's no dress code for the pod. It's not like at Damnation, the guys want a Mayhem t-shirt and you just like, or you go to Art Tangent, you're like, fuck, he's definitely an Art Tangent fan. These guys were just guys in cords and a fucking pair of shoes. And I'm like, are they here because of the podcast? Are they just here two guys that have their drink at the bar? And I'm like, I don't want to go across because I'm going to make a total fanny of myself. And we were across like, hi guys, thanks for coming tonight. And they're going to go, like, coming to what? You know what I mean? And then I was just like, Gav, pull up your big boy pants. And ultimately, if they look at you like they had no idea you are, accept it and say, okay, sorry, I was involved in the podcast away. Because the other chance are they do know who you are and they were here for the pod. And just because they haven't brazenly come across, inserted themselves into the conversation, and some people do that, doesn't mean that you shouldn't give them the same time that you're giving everybody else the room. And I went across and I said, hi guys. And I went, all right, Gav. I was like, thank fuck for that. And I said, that's exactly what I said to them. I was fucking second guessing whether to come across here or not, because I had no idea whether you knew who I was or not. And that's a fucking odd and exposing situation just to put yourself in. You'd never do that. You'd never walk across to just random strangers and be like, hi mate, chance I can be your fucking pal. So, is just what you were saying that you find it difficult, or people seem to feel that I find it, that I just managed to get through more people quicker. I think that both of us find, or anyone who isn't an absolute fucking psycho would find just going out and inserting yourself into hellos and cuddles around the room would find themselves in a pretty odd situation.
But I don't know if we've talked about this in private or on the pod before, but I always thought it was a really important part of why Frank Turner was successful, and I've been on tour with him and seen him spend an hour and a half in the car park on his own until everyone's been spoken to, everyone's had their moment. I think it's a fucking brilliant thing to do, if we do the tour again, I will strive to get better at. Having said that, nice segue, Manchester is fucking 400 people, right? You got Gav's family and friends, my family and friends, loads of people we kind of know, and some that you haven't seen for years, and fucking 380 others there.
I mean, Manchester.
So it was a lot.
Manchester. This, we talk about contrast. Now, we stayed at a nice enough Airbnb in Cardiff, which was fine. We sat up, had a few drinks, went to bed, got up, into the van. I don't know, in Scotland, I just look at like 7 hours to London, 7 hours to the top of Scotland. Everything else in between will be like a couple of hours. When I heard that it was a 6-hour drive from Cardiff to Manchester, I almost burst into tears. I was like, what do you mean? It's like that in the map. It's beside each other. Like, no, you have to, Tom's giving me the whole, you need to go in a different route. And I was like, 6 fucking hours, man. We just spent, I mean, this is a lovely van, but I don't want to spend my whole life in it. And that was it, all the way up to Manchester. Enough time to phone up. We got to the crack then. This Airbnb. So we've been at a lovely wee old woman's loft, beautiful, most spectacular luxury seaside bit in Brighton. nice enough sort of student accommodation, but one of the ones that's been refurbished in Cardiff. And then we get to this one, and it's, I don't know if that's a rough part of Manchester or not, but it's like the entire building itself was rough. Paving slabs all outside, all broken and fucking absolute death traps. Go inside. For some reason, the heating in every room's cranked up to 11 and seems to be auto set at that. Like the heating's getting bumped through somewhere. And it's just, I mean, I found the rest of the place, I'm sorry to hear about your pillow, the rest of the place was clean enough, but it was just a bit of a fucking dump and difficult to get into. I want advice from listeners about Airbnbs. This happened to me now twice, over like 50 Airbnbs, where they send you to a third-party portal within the Airbnb that makes you do the whole check-in thing again. You need to send your driving licence front and back. You need to send them a security deposit of £250. This happened when I done the trip to London with Cadence. You need to fucking sign a different thing. Like, it's this whole security deposit, money, ID check that doesn't happen in all the other bookings, but happens in this, which I don't like. And if I know that a property's got, I just won't use that one. But I don't like sending my fucking driving licence all over the place in another £250, which is currently we still don't have back. So we gets there, and it's like, okay, fair enough. We're just sleeping here anyway. Goes to the gig, and then we're getting everything set up. A wee bit chaotic because beforehand did the Christmas market. So the Christmas market is kind of shutting up at 5. We're coming in at the back of 5. Now trying to get our shit set up. And then the most panic-inducing, horrible part of the entire tour, someone says to me, do you have the ticket list? Now, the difference, Manchester, Cardiff and Brighton were promoted by independent promoters. We would have stayed loyal to Dave Beach, the promoter who had us on at Night and Day Cafe, but he's the promoter for Night and Day Cafe, and that's 180 capacity. We were trying to aim for a big thing, so we had no loyalty to go with another promoter in Manchester, and we're like, well, fuck it. Why wouldn't we just promote it? Why wouldn't we just do it ourselves? And that's what we did. And James, I said to James at the time, he didn't seem that keen on it. He was a bit like, I just don't want any jobs. I don't want anything to be in my way. I just want to be like, whether we promote it or I don't want to be the guy that's got more responsibilities. And I was like, well, fuck, what responsibilities is there really? I'll just make sure everything's signed, sealed, delivered, and we'll go there. But I have never, in 20 years of being a promoter at festival level or even local, I have never been responsible for the person that gets the entry sheet. And in Glasgow, it was always Mark when I co-promoted with him. And at the festivals, the companies do that themselves. Skiddle send reps and people will show up in the door with scanners and their sheets, and all that data entry all comes to them. So, James, what time is it? Like 27 minutes past 6, and suddenly the venue are asking for this sold out sheet. I've sold from my end like 350 odd tickets, and they've done a handful, and then there's a guest list. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And my heart collapses through my arse, basically. I was like, this is dreadful. I felt the weight of the world this entire show on my shoulders for something that's so fucking rookie, so novice, that you need to know in the first show you're putting on. And I've got this app in front of me to show me everything about this. The only thing this app doesn't seem to have is the ticket access. I can't understand why in my CD tickets app I don't have the list list. The comedian guy from your festival, Rich, he was like, hand on his shoulder, it'll be okay, we'll talk for this. I'm like, mate, there's 120 seconds to doors open. He's like, we'll get it. And fucking Googling and get backwards forward. Need a second app, and as soon as you've registered that, it just goes doom, and then you use your phone as a scanner.
Yeah, that was not fun, because there was a lot going on in that sort of. We couldn't get the banner up straight. I had my brother and Rich helping us with that. And then you came over and my brother goes to me, I could see what you did there. And I'm like, what do you mean? What did I do? And he's like, you managed your own stress by just walking off. I was like, yeah, I fucking did. The moment I realised Gav and Rich, with also an opinion from Rob, were on it, I was like, there's no point me fucking standing there. I'm the least techie person in the world. I'm going to walk away. But yeah, that was an added layer of stress, which made you wish you weren't the promoter.
It made me wish I wasn't the promoter in that, although I'm sure we'll be fine at the other side, James. I'll deal with the stress. I'm sure we'll be fine at the other side. And that was that, and then the room starts to fill up. We've got a bit of stress about because the guy's like, look, we can put as many seats in the venue as you wish. We've got seats here. But every time you put in another row of seats, you take out 3 times the amount in standing. And the venue's full. It's absolutely packed. So you need to pick your poison about how many seats you're putting out. And I was like, we need more seats than this, because at the minute it's like 70. And I'm like, we need to get over 100, because there's people in here expecting to sit down. And I think we got to about 120, 130. And then, but when we walked out, you could see every fucking inch. People were at the fire doors. You know, the entry point between the pub into the venue. It was rammed. Like, you see right to the back, and people are right at the back as well. And you're just, when we walked out of that, I mean, that first, there's a video that the guy, Mike, from Revolution, you can see when we go out, it takes us a wee second just to sort of comprehend the amount of faces staring back at you.
Well, you don't even, because I literally said fucking hell, didn't I? So because I only know that because I saw the video. So there's a video of us walking out, and it's me just going fucking hell.
Aye.
And yeah, it was a lot, a real lot. And I think, and then you're in the tumble dryer, the whirlwind of it all, aren't you? And I think it's okay to admit that me and you, the first 2 nights of the tour, when we came off, we'd had basically the same experience of the shows, and I think this was slightly different in that you've already mentioned. So the first half, I did think you were fucking on fire. I thought I was quite good. I don't know if I was slightly having your sort of mum and dad and brother and friends and family there. You know, the people that know you the most made me feel a bit funny. I'm not sure. I didn't vibe the first half in the same way you did. I thought it was really good. And I will say the best thing I've ever done, as I said, was Manchester last time. But you were fucking loving it. And when we came off stage, I honestly thought your head was going through the fucking ceiling. Like the adrenaline, you were just like, fuck the plan. We don't need a plan in the second half. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm like, going, right. So what I said to you is, we had this plan where it kind of goes up and down, and there's funny bits and interesting bits, and you just want to go at 90 miles an hour for the whole of the next. And you're like, fuck. You're like, come on. You're like, bring it on.
And an adrenaline-fueled days, I probably wasn't saying what. Basically, we came off that first half, and I never felt genuine. I'll be honest with this, that I was in fire and you weren't in fire. I just felt that the 3 parts that you need for it to be everything I thought that first half was, were all on fire. Like you, me, and the crowd. I felt that built up sort of like, come on, let's go for the crowd was right there. You and I were feeding off it. We had this entire plan. Never touched chunks yet. Huge chunks, a whole big festival feels, but never get touched. We had the bit about the whole, I was going to do the Christmas crackers, never even got to that. And I was a part of me who was like, why would we fall back on some of the stuff there? I mean, if this energy's here, if we can keep this energy we get for the second half, why wouldn't we just go? And because we've always got the plan, when the festival fails, the other stories, we've always got that to fall back on, the questions. So that was kind of what I was saying, and you were taking it as like, just wrap up the plan. And I wasn't describing properly what I meant. It's like, no, let's just go and see what we get for this while that energy's there. It's quite an unusual situation to be in. And then we've always got the fallback. And we went out, and I don't know what the problem was. I don't know what, I feel like once that we're so fucking novice at this, and this is so fresh. I don't know if you have that situation where you invite the crowd in too far, and you're a bit like, right, okay, now it's a 3-person show between us. There is some folk in there that just don't cope with that well, and then you get people that are just shouting out things that are really only, like, the biggest thing is people shout out things that are only interesting to them. It's like, if they're into golf and they want, James, tell us about golf, and then you instantly alienate a whole fucking side of it, and it got that quite. And then another thing, we were trying to be generous with the crackers. So we had a free ticket for that tangent, free ticket for damnation, free ticket for trees, free merch. But the problem with that, and even at the live shows and festivals with the sauces, is as soon as you take away from what you're doing into the mics, it puts in these wee breaks, these wee punctuation of 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Then they become, and we'll talk about the throwing out the sauce bit at the end, which is another reason it kind of killed my buzz for that night, was you get these wee bits that then stop your flow. And none of that happened in the first half because we had the flow. We were in control of what was going on. So that question's not been great. To be fair, the questions weren't that wonderful.
No, and I actually refused to answer the first two questions, which if I had my time again, because basically in my memory, now you've got to realise that this might not be fully exactly what happened, but in my memory, the first question was about sponsorship and you answered it and I was just like, next question. And then the question was about 2000 Trees question, which we kind of bantered about and then both refused to answer. So, and then it felt like the questions are kind of, we went from Brighton having no questions because we were a bit worried about the shit questions we got at Arc Tangent. And then we did it in Cardiff and it worked well. So we're like, okay, we're back in Question Town. And it's everyone has to realise we're fucking massively learning this. We're learning what works, but you don't know what people are going to say. So if it works in Cardiff, it doesn't mean it's going to work in Manchester. And then you it felt like you lost a bit of the momentum. I felt like we lost a bit of the momentum, but you're unable to. It's like a football team being in the Champions League final. You can't all go back in and have another team talk.
Yeah.
You've done your team talk. You didn't mean to lose that. You lost 2 early goals. Now you've got to fucking go again. But it's like, oh shit.
The weird thing, right? And this is a contrast thing. And be honest about this, James. Be honest about it. Don't just be nice because it's my wife, right? And I'm telling the story about the ring light. And we'd said to Kelly before, and we wanted Kelly and your mum to come up, and Kelly was like, I'm just far too nervous, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do it, right? And I didn't want to ruin her night by doing it. But then the couple of glasses of champagne go down, and I said, oh, Kelly won't come up to tell the ring light story. And as I'm starting to tell it, she comes up, right? Now, people loved that. Absolutely loved the fact that she came up with her. But by that point, we'd had a couple of questions that weren't right. Somebody was starting to heckle for the back of the crowd. We were losing control of the thing a wee bit. And there's a picture there, right? And Kelly's up telling the story. And at this point, you can see your face and you're just like, you're looking like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it's like, what's happening in the show to be put together? Because now Gav's wife's on stage fucking telling a story. And like, it looked to me like you weren't in a happy place with it.
Well, I was a bit lost at that point. And I was wondering whether to try and, because like we've learned a way of telling a story on the podcast. So with Tom, I was like, mate, just don't assume people know anything. Talk them through it and stuff. So I kind of wanted to interrupt Kelly and be like, wait, let's just make sure people know what the ring light story is and stuff. And I wasn't sure whether to do that. So because suddenly it's like something that you didn't know was going to happen is happening. And yeah, it felt like I keep doing football analogies, like the ball was I was in midfield and it was going back and forwards over my head and I just wanted to put my foot on it for a second.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to. So it's just like, fucking hell. And that is quite an intense thing to have happen to you in front of your family and 400 people who've paid to be there.
Yeah.
So it was wild. The whole thing was wild. And that you haven't even mentioned the fucking heckler.
Yeah, I mean, so at this point, I don't know. So that's I feel like Kelly helped the situation a great deal. So I feel like whether you knew the story or not, it was like the same thing if your mum had gone up. There's a real, or Tom Begley, or Shifty, or anything linked to the pod. People like, fucking yes, support it. And Kelly got up and having a bit of a laugh. And the whole, see that segment as well, I know the Kelly bit, but the questions that weren't great, the crackers going out, us losing control a wee bit, starting to hear a bit of heckling behind the speaker. The whole bit's like 5 or 6, 7 minutes. I mean, it's not, but when you're on stage and you're losing control of where it is in the plan, that can feel like fucking 2 days. So I was there with you and I felt it. And it was very clever of us, especially you, to be like, because you never had the button to pause and let's go and get the team talk, but you did have the button to say, right, boom, batting plan. And somebody who posted afterwards saying, that was very clever to come out, try something, realise it's not working and just nuke it. Like, boom, right, okay, we're not doing this anymore. Let's talk about festival fails and get back into our plan. Well, she did. And the rest of the show, other than that heckler, and then me fucking smacking somebody with a bottle, the rest of that show would have been absolutely fine. And I'm big enough now at this point in time, if people say at the end, like, you know what, the second half wasn't as great, or I didn't enjoy that, or that was getting in my way, I would take it on board. But everyone to a person was going, fucking loved the whole show. We never noticed the things that you noticed. I felt like I was that fucking musician who noticed that the drummer wasn't quite in time, and it was doing my nothing. I feel like we had a shit show, but everyone else never noticed the drummer. So,
Sorry.
No, go.
Do you also remember that bit though when? Because I'm just getting snapshots of memories, but there's that bit where Tom comes over the PA like God, but you can't see the fucker, so I don't know where he is, and his mic isn't working, and then you see him walking towards us down the middle, and it's just going stutter, stutter, stutter. Presumably, the rest of the audience are thinking, "What the fuck's going on?" And this, I don't even know in the timeline of all what we just talked about when that happened, but I'm just like, fucking hell, everything that can go wrong seems to be going wrong.
At that point, you all starting to know that was at the very end before we nuked it and you was, did anybody even ask Tom a question? Because it was getting that way. There was just fucking people pitching in for wherever they liked, right? So that get addressed, it get nailed. I don't think it was as bad as especially what you think it was your head. And I noticed it was going on, but I still felt it was. Our mate Joe, he said you could see it was in danger of going off the rails, but it never did. That was the way that he put it. And then, as we're starting to get things going again, there's just a conversation happening. Now, the whole time I can hear, there's a couple of things here. I don't mind heckling. In fact, I would actively promote it if it's a bit of fun. There was some people shouting about a thrash band. There was something about football. Like I like it. I enjoy it. I enjoy dealing with it. I enjoy being part of the audience experience with us. But to a point now, you say something that gets addressed, boom, done. Okay, that happened the night before in Cardiff when Cat was shouting, your name your three Metallica albums, and you just address it, no happening, and then you move on a wee bit of fun with some people in the back that Cardiff night as well. But this was different. There was people chatting at the bar to get drinks, and you just go, that's understandable. It's a busy room, people are by a bar, you can't order drinks silently. So that was happening the whole time. And really didn't bother me or put me off at all. People are just at a bar. But right behind this speaker where I'm sitting, so I'm sitting to the left, right behind the speaker, I can't see, there is at least one, possibly two people just talking loudly. And I don't know what you would compare it to in your day-to-day life. That it's impossible to switch off. And talk about taking your flow or the story, your concentration just goes completely, which is why I take it in theatres or comedians, whatever, they just eject those people because it's no fun for anyone that's sitting beside them, and it's no fun for the people on stage because you've just got someone interrupting the performance, whatever that performance is. And I'd said, can whoever is behind them shut the fuck up? And it was like people going, shh. Then shushing started backwards and forwards. And then the people said they were sitting there, they were shushing each other, like laughing. And I'm like, in my head, I can't even process, well, you paid £25. 25 quid you've paid to come and listen to us two talk on stage, which in itself is bananas. And for whatever reason, you've just decided to launch it. And I get it, you're probably fucking pissed. And at this point, you're not even listening to it. But to then be in a situation where they're talking, so it got worse and worse, and that sat with me through that second half, and I feel like we soldiered through. I was getting more and more worked up, and I was at one point I was going to leave the stage.
Yeah. Well, I actually, because I think we know each other quite well, and I kind of saw it in your eye. I don't know, which didn't make me feel more. It didn't help with my. I think we've got this. This is going well. So somewhere in all of that, it's like this fucking heckler, which my hearing is not fucking amazing, and I couldn't hear the heckler. So, but I know plenty of people have said since that they could. I think it was they must have been on your side of the room.
Behind that speaker for where I was, and that was a great thing. If I had known that the whole room couldn't hear the heckler, and I'm shushing each other and talking over the top of it, it would have bothered me less because I would have just, again, okay, it's not affecting the show, but in my head, it's not only affecting our show on stage, it's affecting everyone that's been listening to this.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I just wanted to go and see who the person was, to be like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm glad I didn't, because no one wants Santa Christmas night, me fucking...
That would be a fucking podcast and a half, that would.
That would be a podcast. But go on.
Well, what? So I think just to kind of round off my thoughts on this is that, waking up the next day, you get to sort of go back up the road in a car with two people that were there and know your supporters, and they are no doubt able to sort of debrief it a bit and work out exactly what happened. I got to sit on a fucking lonely train for 3.5 hours, just chucking it around in my head, and I can't even remember the bit where we talked about the funny stories, the Shifty story and the fancy dress story and stuff. All I can remember is all those little things that all those bits of chaos of which there are about, and we haven't even talked about the bottle of sauce and all of those bits have just been like, fuck me.
It was what
the fuck happened?
I could see that with you as well. I could see that how badly that had damaged you. Your confidence in the second half. Now, at the time, I really wasn't that whole bothered about a couple of questions going around. We'd done that before. We've been at festivals. That's happened to us before. The heckler was one I was like, because I think I say by the end of it, big thanks to everybody except that fucking dauber over there who when he fucking shut up the whole time. And then, so we finished the thing. And so we've got the shite before Christmas, no vomit. So but what happens is people are getting the crackers. We're all getting the crackers in the first couple of rows because they're the only place you can get questions to. And the people getting the hot sauces are the only people that are in the front rows because that's where you can safely and gently hold some of the hot sauce. And people in the back are like, fuck, I'll have a fucking hot sauce. I'll have a £12 hot sauce. I'm here too. And I'm a bit like, so I goes to throw it, and I joke before I say it, like, I hit somebody at a festival once, so make sure you catch this fucking thing. But when I go to throw it, there is no scope to lob it. So then when I go to try and lob it, I realise I'm just going to go right off the fucking roof and bust this ball. So I end up turning into some sort of frisbee/baseball pitch of death that comes out my hand. And as soon as it left my hand, I was like, what the fuck was that? And it's spinning, and turns out some woman's put up the hand to try and catch it. It's come off her hand and then fucked into Tom Redman, a Damnation fan and listener to the pod, obviously, and hit him in the side anyway. So I don't know this at the time. I just see somebody's caught it, and it goes off the stage. And we're like, at this point, you can see the wind's out your sails anyway, because you're a bit like, fuck, what? That's second half. The wind's out my sails because I feel a wee bit responsible for trying to take us off plan to go in that direction. And also, I wouldn't have minded fighting that fucking heckler in the car park. And then you're just like, all right, okay, that's really fucking angry. And at that exact moment, and I'm coming off stage, somebody was grabbing at me, we're going off stage talking about passes or something. Like, I'm in a fucking total... And somebody, Gav, I can't even remember who the fuck it was. It was going, can I get this up? And somebody's like, two people were asking me for something as I'm walking off stage and I fucking don't know where I am. Like, buzzer, that was the greatest thing ever, but there's reasons why it wasn't as good as it should have been in the second half. And we get into the dressing room, and then Rob, I think it was, comes in and he goes, you hit somebody in the face with that bottle and it's bust their face open. And I was like, what? And Rob can be quite, he's got a dry sense of humour. And I was like, seriously? And he goes, no, Gav, seriously. And I was like, at that point, like, okay, well, that's the only thing that matters at the minute is going and seeing who this is that I've fucking hit in the face with a bottle. Try to be nice and end up fucking assaulting somebody. So I goes out and I finds, and it's Tom Redman, who obviously I know for Damnation, and he's bust this bit. He's been doing, he's bust this bit of his eye. Looks a bit lost at the time because he's got blood bearing out, so his nose fucking, I'm like, for fuck. So then that's the priority for next 15, 20 minutes, making sure he's got first aid. Like, come backstage, we'll get you fucking a beer and all taped up properly and get you looked at. And that was that. And then the whole time, so then it just get this feeling of, and I remember talking to you multiple times, like, fuck me, man. That was the greatest night of my life. That's now about a heckler and hitting somebody with a bottle of hot sauce. And it just felt like, where the fuck was 45 minutes ago? That, honestly, where I could have just come in here like a bounce ball, I'd root the fucking dressing room and be like, my God, stop the podcast right now, and I'm away to fucking go and do an arena because this is the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life. And that was it. And you were obviously in your own headspace, not so worried about me hitting a guy with a bottle of hot sauce, but just that whole, like, where did we lose control of the plan there? In hindsight, when I look back, I really don't think we did for that long.
And the problem is, what I don't want is I don't want a yes person. I don't know what I wanted. But I don't want someone to tell me it was great when it wasn't. So, but this all, of course, feeds into then the fucking meet and greet afterwards, because I'm like, I was really not feeling the love for life. And actually, my mum and dad were at the back room, and I just wanted to go and give my mum a hug and be like, was that a complete fucking disaster? But I couldn't get to them. And then, it's just weird. I mean, look, we're being fucking really open here. You could style all this out and be like, well, it was a punk rock show. It was a bit random, but it was fine. But I really struggled after the show to try and process what happened in the second half. And was still thinking about it all the fucking time at the moment. It was just a lot to be like your biggest thing ever with the eyes of your friends and family. And, you know, Simon, my business partner, is fucking driven over from Sheffield. He's made the effort. You just want people to be like, oh my God, that was fucking brilliant. You nailed it. I wish they were at Manchester last time because we nailed the entire thing, I think. So it's just a bit disappointing. And then you're trying to have a meet and greet. And like, I think a few people thought this guy's a fucking rude prick because he's trying to get away from me. I was trying to get to my mum. It was weird.
The meet and greet after that, and I think people going to be listening to that and say, Jesus guys, you guys are really fucking making a bigger deal about what happened in the second half. I was there. It was great. It wasn't that much different for the first half. This is all in your head. You are doing exactly what you say musicians do. You're being that guy who's hypercritical of the smallest things that the audience don't, and that's my genuine feeling. And by all means, guys, write how you feel. And if you notice the difference, tell us, because we don't need yes men either. So when I went out and done after the Tom Redmond situation, I was like, right, okay, there's people out there that are waiting to have a chat, and there was a lot of chat at Cardiff. So I went out, and I have to say, and this had never happened before because we have always been in rooms where you're able to get around enough people, but you go out and the intensity of those conversations is something you're not mentally equipped for. People know us a lot better now than they did in March. We've been a lot more personal in the last 6 months because we've eased into this podcast and people don't mind hearing a bit about your lives. And you're getting conversations like proper, like my dad died and you guys are the people who helped me through in hospital. Yous are the voices that I listened to in hospital. We had trouble at childbirth. And yous are the voices that me and my wife listen to. Yous mean the world to me. I've travelled up from fucking guy came from Switzerland. There was people. I've started promoting because you guys. I listen to it. You've helped me through the pitfalls, and you're like these conversations are unbelievable, and I care deeply about it. I can see why if you were an actual celebrity, a day-to-day celebrity, that a bit of you needs to switch off, or else you won't survive. Because you can't take everyone's personal highlights, traumas, tragedies, and you can't have them in 10-minute bursts and still be able to just go on with your life. So at the minute, when these people are telling me this, I care and I'm listening. At the same time, I also know that the next person's there, some of them standing, waiting for their turn to talk. So you're trying to do this whole thing and you're taking it in, you're trying to be as polite as possible, and you do care, and you care about the fact that, but you also the next person, and you do that. And I went through, so let's say we've done 45 minutes, and some of the most interesting and touching and deeply important conversations you'll have in a year with people all happen one after the other, quick succession conversations. And then I was like, I had somebody gave me a couple of vinyl and somebody had a t-shirt, and I'm just going to use this as an excuse to go back to the dressing room because I'm not equipped for this level of trauma, fucking importance in people's lives, taking in the information that's been given to me, and I don't want to do it half-hearted. I need to go back to that dressing room, and I just need to sit for 5 minutes, and I went back and I spoke to a couple of people like, fuck me, that's I'd forgotten about the show. I mean, I was a bit like doing about the fact that Tom had been hit with a bottle, but I forgot about the heckler, and I pretty much forgot about the show at that point. I was just like, this is a lot. People are unloading, saying that they've been through traumatic times lately, and that this was a big highlight for them, and they appreciate us doing this. And people asking me to if they can get a damnation flag to go and do a charity challenge, and they want to fly at the top of a mountain for whatever heartfelt fucking reason they're doing that. And I just went back and I sat for 50 minutes, but I kicked back in. People are there who want to chat to you, so you head back out and you sit for it. But at that time, I went back a bit equipped to, rather than just listening, to saying to them, thank you. The reason that I was on that stage tonight, the reason that James and I get to do this is because of you. This is a dream for us. I'm going to say to people, this is one of the best nights of my life, and it's because of you. And that made it a bit easier on the second one, because I feel like I'd like readjusted to the fact that, like, let people know how important they are to you too and why this is a fucking thing. But even still, I get through. There was a fucking another 100 people that, by the time that I found, I hadn't seen Kelly in 2 hours. I hadn't seen Kelly after the fuck knows where Kelly was. Turns out she was in the toilet. Get me a bunch of fucking people telling her their stories, and like how what class was, and Gavin's great this, or James great this, or how do you put up with that nonsense, or how did Katie feel about Radiohead, and just Kelly was like, Kelly had the night of life. She was like, honest to God, like never never turn your back on any single one of the people that come to your show. I mean, they are like, honestly, fucking legends, every last one of them. And you've got a weird one as well, James. You're talking against your mum. I'm talking to two people that I don't know at all, right? And they know everything about me. And then beside them's like Marshall, my pal that I go to trees with and sit with 4 days, and Gav Brown and his missus Julia, and people have come down from Glasgow that I know. And you're like, you're almost rudely saying to Marshall, like, I'll catch up with you. And he's kind of guy that understands it. But you're not talking to your friends because you're trying to get to people that you know you might not see again, might never come back to a show, might not like. And that was one of the ones that was about like, I don't think anybody, we're not social workers, we don't work in hospices, we don't, like, in fact, I'll have conversations through the whole of 26, and cumulatively you'll never get anywhere near the level of how deep and meaningful and interesting each one of those conversations were. And they all happened to me in the space of a 90-minute dump.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? We will endeavour to be better at it. I will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. Do you get better, or do you just like you accept when you go? You're a bit better prepared. I think you get better prepared, and like as I said, not even that 50-minute break. It's a bit like make sure they're telling you how important you are to them, but make sure you tell them back. It's like I think the first bit I failed at because I was just a bit like fucking shock and awe. A bit like I wasn't expecting to come out here to hear about like difficulties with childbirth and deaths in the family. I didn't comprehend like that's what was going to happen, and for all it happened so quickly one after the other that it was a bit like okay. When I went back, I was like okay, right, okay, this is how deep it could be. At the start, the first tour, I felt it was a lot of love the podcast, hope to come to your festivals. I feel like there's just a deeper link now with the listenership now because we've done it for longer and probably get a bit more personal sales.
Yeah, fuck. So I mean, that is a whole load of unloading our innermost thoughts, isn't it? That's a hell of a way to do episode 100.
That in itself is a weird old podcast because we do talk about a lot of topics that like, we're broaching and stuff like that, your festivals and billing and costs and our opinions and stuff. That is like us just pulling back the curtains. That's not the content of the tour. That's what the tour was to us. That's a weird spot for us to be in because we're promoters who flipped to the artist for a weekend, and then in Manchester became both, oddly, and then how it feels to be in that position. I mean, maybe you listen to this and you're like, I don't really care about that, but that is the tour that was, and it was unbelievably special. And if it was the last show we ever done, I'd always look back very, very fondly at that. And as each day passes, the heckler, the bottle of sauce, and losing the control family it just fades more and more comes to it as the rest of it. And I feel like in a month's time we'll forget that ever happening. Get with it. But Tom, I'm not trying to downplay the fact I hit you with a bottle of sauce. I hope the free damnation ticket, the free Art Tangent ticket, and the free merch helps heal that scar up. But I was the heckler so fucking what ultimately. I just need to be more better experienced, and I think in future ones you need to say to security, if there's a heckler who just will not stop talking through it, they need to be removed because it's just no fair on the people sitting beside them either.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll watch some comedians dealing with hecklers next time, and before we go,
I mean, even fucking Jimmy Carr is the funniest. Put down the world. If you've got somebody who just doesn't care and just wants a moment of shouting at you, the security is the only option you've got left, and that's what he does. He gives you a chance. It goes that now, right? Okay, but this isn't your show. This isn't between me and you, mate. You've paid to listen. You don't want to listen. Security, and out you go. So I think that you'd be better prepared for that. I mean, certainly not leaving the stage, which is not. I don't think Jimmy Carr ever wants to leave the stage. Lose fucking Bruce. Did I lose Bruce earlier? I feel like I did.
Yeah, you changed the plan, so you are eyesore, don't cut it, Shifty. Don't make Gav look like.
And I've made fucking Shifty come up with me. Eyesore merch. Thank you to those guys too. They have been a huge supporters of us for ages. It's always been this chat. We'll run it for a wee while, and then we'll take a stop, and then we'll run it to the festivals, and then we'll take a stop. I assume they're happy with what's happening on the pod and the business that they're getting through it. I have waxed lyrical about everything I've got. I mean, one good example is my friend Graham Johnson was away looking to get a shot for his nephew, and they spotted ISO merch. They're like, boom, that's right. I've listened to 99 ad reads. This is the place to go. I suppose that's the point of all the big, that's why McDonald's deliver a billboard every 2 yards, despite being the biggest fucking fast food chain in the world. That's the reason why Coca-Cola are still in the fucking Champions League final adverts. It's not because they don't think you don't like Coca-Cola is or McDonald's is. It's because they just always want to be at the forefront of your mind when you go to do the thing that you're going to do. Now, for ISO merch, we're all buying merch. We're all buying our favourite band's merch. ISO merch want to be the place you go, no, that's where I'm supposed to go. And it is the place you're supposed to go because I've got the most of it and I've all the big bands. So keep at it. As long as they are with us, we will keep shouting those guys out. They have everything. Their merch is quality. It's cheaper than you get it anywhere else. And they're a reliable, trustworthy fucking firm who deserve the support because they support so many festivals. Bloodstock, Art Tangent, fucking Damnation, 2000 Trees. They're at Download. They've been involved in the industry for now 20 odd years or something, and they are good people to support. So isomerch.com, they do a pod 10 discount. I mean, I don't know what a delivery you can check on site if you've still got a chance to catch some Christmas presents. But even if you don't, you get some Christmas money, go and spend it on some new merchandise.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've unloaded a wee bit there, James. I feel a wee bit like...
We have. It's a lot. I need to go and lie down again. Okay, my on the record is the song The Grudge by Tool, because when we were on tour, we tried to find an album that all four of us liked, and we listened in the dressing room in Cardiff to Lateralis. So this is the popular rock combo Tool. They are a fucking band and a half, and so is this song, The Grudge. Get it on Christmas Day. Your family will love it.
Yes, I fucking love The Grudge. What an opener. It is an absolute belter track. I saw him do it live. Because obviously there's a very difficult bit where he does the scream for like a amount of time that just doesn't seem reasonable or possible. So I absolutely fucking love The Grudge. I saw your choice, and I thought if we're playing with the big boys, I will go the big boys too, and I will go Where Is Your Mind by Pixies. I love it when we stick a big band on it. The reason that we don't do that often is because you just assume that everyone listens to bands like Radiohead or Nine Inch Nails, whatever, and then you see somebody going, that was my first experience ever listening to Pixies or Tool, and now they're away off on a new journey to find some of the best bands in the world. So Where Is My Mind? I mean, really fucking like indie rock, or just rock, I suppose it would be back in the day. Inspired bands like fucking Nirvana. Unbelievable track. If you've ever watched what's the Brad Pitt, Ed Norton Fight Club, the closing scene when they're in the building with the car park getting blown up, that's the tune it's playing. A lovely catchy wee number, and tough not to like. So many great fucking Pixies tracks. I picked anything, but Where Is My Mind is an absolute banger.
Great stuff. That was emotional, mate. You have a fucking lovely Christmas. Send me lots of voice memos telling me what a nice time you're having.
And cheery ones, James. Cheery ones. You sent me one this morning that did not sound like a man who wanted to be involved in a podcast or festivals or life anymore. I want cheery James back.
Mate, cheery James will be back.
You are the happiest guy on tour ever. I mean, like, the levels of enthusiasm you have for life on tour, unreal.
Mate, because I fucking love it. Because I love it. I don't love post.
Until we go again, thank you so much to all the listeners. Thank you to everyone who came out in tour with us. Thank you to people who picked up the merch. I am wearing the new merch. It's brilliant. We will put whatever's left up in the web store. That will be after Christmas now. Thanks for letting us do this, guys. Honestly, for the bottom of our hearts, it means the world. We had a wee bit of ammonia about the bread shed second half. But in the grand scale of things and everything we've been allowed to do with this podcast, it's fucking nothing. It's insignificant. So have the best fucking Christmas ever. If James decides he wants to do top 10 albums, you might get a Christmas gift somewhere in between. We'll flag it up to you. We'll just drop that and then not say anything. If we don't, we will see you in the new year. January 8th, we go again.
Fuck yeah.